Hey everyone, welcome to Broadband Deployment News. The state of Louisiana is on top of their BEAD funding. They've done things very quickly as far as getting out their 5-year plan and their both volumes of their initial proposal, and now they have their challenge process available. So we'll take a look at that and be right back. Thanks for joining me. Rick Husey here with Broadband Deployment News. So as I mentioned, Louisiana has been really on top of things. They've been first in most of what they've been trying to get it done here with, I think, an office of maybe 3 or 4 people, 5 people. I can't remember the number, but it's a small number of people that's getting a lot of things done. And they now have released their challenge process. And this is a requirement for states that are going to be providing subgrants from the BEAD program to internet service providers. They have to determine or have to allow folks to challenge the locations that have broadband service available and some other factors there. So they have now got that process out and defined. So I want to make sure that you're aware of that. I linked to this page in the description. This will basically link to everything else that I was going to be showing here today. So you see, they tell you what the challenge process is. Then they've got where you can register. Now this would be for internet service providers and nonprofits, government entities that would actually be doing these challenges. You can view the BEAD eligibility map. I'll show that in a moment. Challenge files. You can download unserved, underserved. Deduplication, which would be locations that are supposed to have committed federal funds already that would not be eligible. Then they've got their data, and then they've got federal deduplication data. I think I remember hearing in the webinar that I had watched that maybe that's not complete yet. But anyway, so this, I think this would be interesting for anybody that is participating with BEAD, especially if you are obviously in Louisiana. If you're an internet service provider, you should be aware of this. But if you're not, here you go. And or communities, as I mentioned, nonprofits. Tribal governments, other governments that would be interested in this. But I think anybody else from any other state that has a stake in BEAD in their state can get an idea of what's going on here in Louisiana. Again, being first out, other states can look at this as kind of a guide and see if they are moving along the same path, or maybe they can find some things that would be helpful here. One thing I can say is I like this page. It's very clear. It tells what it is. It's got everything that you'd need. As I mentioned, the files are here. They've got a user guide I'll take a quick look at. They've got a challenge process overview. That's basically a PowerPoint demonstration or slide deck. Then you've got a webinar which goes through that slide deck where they actually presented that to folks that were interested in this challenge process, mostly internet service providers, but others that are going to be challenging. So let's take a quick look. Again, this is the page that I linked to. Here is the kind of the summary. This is the slide deck that they went through in the webinar, so you can download this, but you can also, again, watch the webinar. So the webinar is right here. There's a link to that on that page as well. And if you click that, it's going to run you through basically the slides where somebody from ConnectLA is talking through it, along with Dustin Loop, who is part of the Broadband Mapping Coalition, and I believe was working with ConnectLA on the map, because I believe that's a ready.net product map that they put together. So he's on there as well as explaining things. So that's very informative. So again, if I look back here, let's take a look at this summary real quick, just to give you an idea of what we got in here. So they talk about the number of locations, 80,000 plus gumbo locations. That's their broadband grant program. Then you've got Rural Digital Opportunity Fund, 175,000 plus locations. They're talking about basically what they've been able to accomplish here. 1.4 billion for affordable high-speed internet through, I think, the BEAD program there. And they've got their BEAD challenge process. So again, you've got the BEAD program. Let's see, permissible challengers would be, again, nonprofits, would be municipalities. That would include tribal governments as well, so government entities, and internet service providers. Then the challenge process timeline started the other day. So that's when they're going to be accepting challenges. They'll be looking at rebuttals, I believe, starting, they said, I think it was maybe November 4th in there, in or around there. Then in December, they'll be adjudicating those results and making decisions there. Permissible challenges, that would be whether broadband service is available at a location, not whether that location is a broadband serviceable location. So they have to go by what was on, or based upon what was on the map, the FCC broadband map, when that was kind of locked in. So that was, I believe it was the end of December. So they've got to stick by that as being the definitive source of what locations should have broadband. But what we're looking at here is do locations have broadband service? Do those broadband serviceable locations that were identified at that time have broadband service? And is that accurate? So that would be the existing broadband service. Identification of community anchor institutions. So, what are those identified properly? And a lot of times they're not, because, it was assumed that community anchor institutions were not counted because they would be getting broadband from, let's say, they would already be getting it through a non-retail kind of broadband provider, but a lot of them get it through retail broadband providers. So I'm sure there's going to be challenges there if that have not already been made. Enforceable commitments, those would be any federal funds such as RDOF, ARPA, USDA Reconnect, anything that's come through Gumbo that would be a broadband funding that would be funding an area. You want to make sure that you don't duplicate funds and overbuild an area that was already funded. So that's what that would be. That can be challenged. Planned service. So if a broadband service provider has a broadband service that they are in the process of deploying or will be deploying, and I believe the date, we might see it here in this other document, was, I think it was, I hate to say it without being correct, we can look at it. It was in 2024. So if a broadband operator is in the process of doing that, they need to provide some evidence for that, paperwork and whatnot from government that they're doing this, or those kinds of things. They need to provide evidence, and there's a whole slew of information about how you can have evidence for these challenges. Again, challenge evidence availability is the service noted is not offered, and there's different information here that you can provide. Latency, speed of latency threshold, data caps, unreasonable capacity allowance. You can get screenshots, but again, there's more information in the guide that I'll look at here in a moment. Challenge evidence on technology. Is it the type of service? Does it say it's fiber, but it's really DSL, that kind of thing? Is it business service only? I can't get it as a residence, or I can't get a residential plan. And again, enforceable commitments. Is there funding already there? Yes or no? Is it a community anchor institution? Yes or no? Is there planned service? And here it is. Is there planned service to be offered by an ISP by June 30th, 2024? Is that the date? So again, if you're an ISP and you're going to be providing that service, it's incumbent upon you to make sure that you would challenge that as a location that will have broadband service by that time. And you don't want somebody to be able to come in there and get funding for that when you are already in the process of doing that. The same would go for if you have service in an area and it says you don't, you want to make sure you're challenging that as well. Area and MDU challenges, and then some next steps. So again, that's the slide deck that they went through and was talked about in this webinar, which again, you can get all the links from that page that I linked to in the description. Then you've got this resource guide. So this gives more information on that information that's on that slide deck. So as you look through here, you see information about, again, what can be challenged, area and MDU challenges. It's got the timing again of what they're going to be doing, which all of that was noted there in the slides. But then a lot more detail on things like evidence for additional provider service level challenges, latency challenges, commitment identification, process methodology. So there's a lot more detail there that they go into. And then you get kind of the meat of it here. So I won't go through all of this. This is something that, again, if this is of interest, you can look at the information right in here. And here you actually see the dates. So rebuttal submission window is November 8th through December 8th. So it was November 8th, not November 4th. And you can see they're going to make their final determination and complete that by January 4th, 2024. So as I mentioned, Louisiana, ConnectLA, Louisiana has been really on top of things. So I imagine they'll be one of the first states that will start awarding funding because they've been kind of ahead of the curve on a lot of these processes. So they should be able to get things out pretty quickly. They've got a timeline here, and I would not be surprised if they're awarding funding not long after this. So early in 2024 for Louisiana. And then the map, again, I mentioned this. So this is a map that the state of Louisiana is providing, specifically in this case for the challenges. And as I mentioned, I believe this is from ready.net. And by the way, if you're an ISP and you would like to get a map like this that can help you with your grants, determining where you want to provide service and who's providing service now, what federal commitments there are, contact us and we can help you with that. So you'll see our contact information at the end of this. But this, I believe, I'm really certain because I saw Dustin presenting it, would be a similar kind of map that, contact us and we can help get you connected with that. So here you've got, you can see you've got different information here that you can check. I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bigger so I can see it right here. Oops, I think when I did that, I closed that. There we go. All right, so you can see you've got the building type, and you can check and uncheck these things and put them back on the map. You've got different community anchor institutions. So again, that's something that if you wanted to see where all your libraries are, schools are, those kinds of things, you can do that. Here you've got funding programs. So as I click in here, you can see it will show you BIP, the BIP program, CAF2, CCGP, not sure what that is, Gumbo, that's the Louisiana broadband grants that they've been making, some of which are through federal programs coming through that, like ARPA. Then you've got RDOF, you've got Reconnect, that would be the USDA Reconnect program. So you can see where committed funds are. You can see the type of technology that you've got. Is it fiber, cable, geosynchronous satellite, non-geosynchronous? So I'm assuming they mean low Earth orbit there. Licensed fixed wireless, unlicensed fixed wireless, other. So a lot of good information there where you can, take things on and off of this map. Of course, you can drill in on it and see what's going on as you get further down in here and see. So like, as I go in, you've got different colors meaning different things, that kind of thing. So feel free to check that out. And again, give us a call if you'd like to see something this as an ISP, something that's very similar to this. So last thing I was going to show you was you can also download the challenge files. Again, I mentioned this, so you can get unserved, underserved, etc. I went ahead and downloaded this, but what I discovered was really all you have here are basically location IDs. So these, I believe, would be the location IDs, the FCC location IDs that are in the broadband fabric. So, what you would have to do with this is you actually need a copy of the fabric to be able to take this and then turn it into a GIS file so you can actually see this in a map. And that's because that's the standard that the FCC is using for these locations. They're not using it based on street address. It's based on these location IDs. Now, ISPs have had to use these location IDs as they've uploaded their availability data into the broadband fabric. So ISPs should be able to take this and do something with it, and they should have access to the fabric already. But others like communities and governments, those kinds of folks would need access to the fabric. And there are a couple of different, I think it's C or D modules or something like that with the broadband fabric that you can get access to, but you would need to be able to get access to that to be able to see what all these location IDs mean and to be able to suck that into, like I say, into a program where you can actually view them on the map. That's my understanding. So that, again, is something that you can download. So if you are going to be providing service in Louisiana, thinking about it, then you definitely want to be up to speed on this challenge process. You might want to be, because you're probably going to be looking at where you might want to build. And certainly that it will help you to be able to understand what's being challenged and why. If you're an internet service provider already, you want to know if somebody's challenging some of your data that you've got out there. You want to make sure that if you are looking to build somewhere that you have an understanding of where there's already an enforceable commitment, where federal funds are going, or any broadband funds are already being applied, so that would be off the map. You can't do that. So again, if you're in Louisiana, definitely important. If you're not in Louisiana, I think go ahead and, like I said, check it out, because if you're involved in broadband at all in your state, then I think it would be interesting to see what Louisiana is doing. So again, thanks for joining me. And if you are interested in assistance with getting a map, then you can get a lot of those data points, maybe assistance with getting a grant, then give us a call here, send us an email, and we will connect you up with the right folks that can do that for you and get that all set up very quickly, get you a demo of that. So reach out to us. We'll be happy to help. Thanks for joining me today. If you're not subscribed to our channel, go ahead and click the subscribe button, click the bell, and you'll be notified when I am live. If this was helpful, give me a like on the video. I'd appreciate it. And I appreciate your watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.